You think I don't know whose baby that is? His hand connected with my face before the last word even left his mouth. That's the moment my entire life split in two, before and after. My name is Sarah Calloway, and what happened to me is the kind of story you hear and think, that can't be real. But it is. Every word. And the man who put me through it is sitting in a prison cell right now, not because of what he did to me, but because of what he'd been hiding for years. Daniel and I had been married for 5 years, good years mostly. He was a contractor who worked long hours, came home smelling like sawdust and coffee, and made me laugh harder than anyone I'd ever known. We weren't perfect, but we were solid, or so I believed. When we decided to try for a baby, I threw myself into it completely. Ovulation kits lined our bathroom cabinet. I tracked my temperature every morning before I even sat up in bed. Month after month, nothing. My doctor ran tests on me. Everything came back normal. She suggested we look at Daniel next. He refused. "There's nothing wrong with me," he'd say, irritated, shutting the conversation down before it started. I told myself it was pride. That's what wives do. We explain away the things that should concern us. 14 months into trying, I got a positive test. I stared at it for so long my eyes blurred. I called my best friend, Maya, who screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. We decided to tell Daniel at dinner with his whole family, his parents, his sister, his uncle who had driven 4 hours to visit. A moment to remember, Maya said. Make it a story. So I did everything right. I bought a little onesie that said "New to the crew." I wrapped it in a box with tissue paper. I set it in front of Daniel's plate while everyone was seated, while candles were lit, while his mother was mid-sentence about something I can no longer remember. He opened it slowly. The table went quiet with anticipation. His mother put her hand to her chest. Then he looked up at me, and his face was not joy, it was not surprise, it was something cold and hard and calculated, like a man who had just been handed evidence he'd been waiting for. "Whose is it?" he said. The table froze. "Daniel! Whose baby is this, Sarah?" His voice rose. "Because it sure as hell isn't mine." His mother said his name. His sister grabbed her husband's arm. I reached for Daniel across the table, and he stood up so fast his chair scraped back across the floor. I stood too. I said his name. I said it again. Then his hand came across my face. I hit the wall behind me. The little onesie box fell off the table. Someone screamed. I think it was his mother. Everything moved in slow motion after that. Daniel pointing at me, yelling words I couldn't fully process. His uncle pulling him back. Me on the floor with my hand pressed to my cheek. The room spinning, my ears ringing with a high, clean tone. His sister helped me up. She kept saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," but she didn't look at me when she said it. She looked at her shoes. The police came that night. Daniel was arrested for domestic assault. His bail was paid by his father before midnight. But here is where the story changes. Because while Daniel sat in his parents' living room playing the wronged husband, my neighbor, an older woman named Ruth, who'd known Daniel since before he met me, came to my door. She sat across from me at my kitchen table, with her hands folded and her face tight, the way people look when they're about to say something they've been sitting on for too long. "I need to tell you something about your husband," she said. Ruth had run into Daniel's ex-girlfriend 2 months earlier, a woman named Brianna, who Daniel had dated seriously before me. Brianna had told Ruth something that had been eating at her ever since, that Daniel had gotten her pregnant 6 years ago, that when she told him, he had panicked and confessed he'd had a vasectomy at 22, secretly, quietly, without telling a single person in his family. Brianna had lost that pregnancy. She and Daniel had broken up, and Daniel had moved on, met me, and said nothing, not one word. He had watched me track my cycle for over a year. He had watched me cry in the car on the way home from my OB appointments. He had held my hand and said, "We'll keep trying, babe. Don't give up." He had known the whole time. I had a paternity test done. The results confirmed what was already clear. Daniel was not the father. But I knew I hadn't been with anyone else. I told my doctor everything, the timeline, the dates, the confusion. She ran additional testing. What came back was something none of us had anticipated. A documented case of superfetation, an extraordinarily rare event where a second egg is fertilized during an already established pregnancy. I had conceived with Daniel, lost that embryo silently in the first 2 weeks before I even knew, and then conceived again during a brief window with a man I had been with one time, a single night with a colleague during a work trip 3 months prior, a night Daniel and I had fought badly before I left, a night I had told him about after I returned, because I believed in honesty, even when it cost me. He had forgiven me then, or pretended to. What I didn't know was that he had filed that information away, saved it, let me try for a baby for over a year knowing his vasectomy made it biologically impossible, waiting, perhaps, for exactly this moment. His cruelty was not a reaction, it was a plan. Daniel's assault charge was upgraded when his medical records were subpoenaed during discovery for our divorce proceedings. His vasectomy had been performed at a clinic 3 states away, paid in cash, no insurance claim, no paper trail in our home state. His deliberate concealment, combined with documented evidence that he had allowed me to undergo unnecessary fertility testing and emotional distress, formed the basis of a civil fraud claim. But what sent him to prison was what investigators found when they dug deeper. Brianna was not the only woman. There had been 2 others before me, both of whom had reported pregnancies they couldn't explain, both of whom had been gaslit, accused, and discarded. One had been hit. Both had been silenced with settlements Daniel's family quietly funded. He had done this before. He had refined it. By the time he met me, he had a system. He is currently serving 4 years. My daughter was born 7 months after the divorce was finalized. She has my eyes and her biological father's dimples, and she is, without any complexity at all, the best thing that has ever happened to me. Her biological father knows about her. We are not together, but he is present and he is kind, and that is more than I ever expected. I still sleep with the light on some nights. I still flinch at raised voices in restaurants. I still hear Daniel's chair scraping back from that dinner table sometimes when I'm on the edge of sleep. But I am here. I am whole, and I am done being quiet. If your husband refuses fertility testing while you spend months blaming yourself, that is not a red flag. That is a 5-alarm fire. Believe the fire.